After finishing Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, I had the feeling that this very well could be the most fun and satisfying Uncharted game I've played. The adventure of Chloe and Nadine is more relaxing. This might have something to do with the pace, or maybe locations did it for me. Maybe there was less pressure for Naughty Dog to make this game a success, since this one is considered more of a spin-off than the original 4. Of course, the gameplay is very similar to Uncharted 4, but there are some minor differences that set The Lost Legacy apart.
Right. You take left, I take right. What the?
The main reason to back up my statement in the title of this video is the way the levels are designed this time around, or at least some of the levels. The first example of this is Chapter 4, where Chloe and Nadine visit the Halebidu Plains. This chapter is also my favorite of the game. It has a small open world environment where objectives can be completed in any given order. The non-linear approach in this chapter also makes it one of the longer chapters in any Uncharted game. Later on in the game, there are a few more chapters that are honestly smaller but have the same kind of approach.
Well, Mandy's not too far. He does nothing.
When objectives can be completed in any given order in an open-ended environment without urgency added in as a factor, the pace of the game becomes totally different as the one found in the linear game, like in the previous installments. It's a matter of preference, but I really welcome this change in the series. It gives you more room and time to explore and to appreciate the gorgeous world that Naughty Dog created. In addition to meeting certain requirements to proceed, Chapter 4 also contains an optional objective that is tied to the trivial treasure hunting. But this definitely made it less trivial, and the reward after completion is refreshing.
Of course, they're back in the 4x4.
More non-linear segments can be found later on, but the freedom of Halebidu never returns, which is fine because I think I understand what Naughty Dog tries to do here. They want to experiment with level design and pacing, and these change now and then to make a diverse but nonetheless balanced game. The objectives in true open world games can get tedious quite quickly, but it stays very fun in The Lost Legacy, because of subtle surprises or differences in what first seemed to be the same kind of tasks. I really would like to see what Naughty Dog can do with a true open world game. Another subtle change that was implemented in The Lost Legacy is chapters that are linked to each other location-wise. It adds a sense of reality to a game that I always appreciate. Transitioning into another level without off-camera travel creates more immersion for the player. There are plenty of good examples of game franchises that do this. Most notably Valve does this very well with Half-Life and Portal, but again, there are a lot of other examples. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's new for the Uncharted franchise, although The Last of Us did it already. I'd like to compare this to traveling by car instead of plane. You can see the world around you change while traveling in a car, but not so much while on a plane. My preference for this kind of game design also relates to the fact that I prefer not to use fast travel in Elder Scrolls or Fallout games, because that breaks immersion. By doing this and still having enough diversity in the places you visit is not a feat every game developer pulls off. Then let's get back to hunting for treasure. In previous Uncharted games I couldn't be bothered with finding the random treasure scattered around the terrain. There was not much of a reward and you had to go out of your way exploring every inch of the area. By introducing a magic pendant that emits a sound and vibration when near a treasure, there's a little more incentive to go out of your way to find the treasure. After acquiring this pendant, I couldn't back away when it indicated that there was something to be found. And sure enough, I had fun doing so, because I knew I was searching for a reason instead of searching randomly. It's still a pointless side activity, but at least I had fun doing it this time. Besides the bigger sense of freedom while exploring, I also find myself enjoying the fighting segments that offer more ways than one to solve them. This is not necessarily different from the previous games, but I think Naughty Dog made more of an effort to bring more diversity to the table on how to resolve these situations this time around. Choosing between guns blazing or stealth is a familiar choice in the series, but the strategic use of the open world environments is new. I really enjoyed the room for flanking and taking different approaches to combat regions. Minor spoiler warning, The chapter where you have to battle a helicopter is a great example of resolving the fight in more ways than one. You can choose to take out all the soldiers and then deal with the helicopter, or choose to ignore the soldiers altogether. The way you take down the helicopter can also be done in various ways. I really like that sense of tactical freedom this offers. Lastly, The Lost Legacy offers a better checkpoint system than the previous installments, but this could be a matter of preference too. The game gets quite forgiving upon death, because most of the time you start right back where you died. Having to do an entire battle segment all over again while dying halfway through is not going to happen. This keeps up the pace and never leads to frustrations anymore. I didn't test the game on higher difficulty settings, but I don't think this has impact on the checkpoint system, but I could be wrong. Uncharted The Lost Legacy might be a spin-off, but it's a very well crafted adventure that in my eyes perfects the franchise. I encourage Naughty Dog to experiment more in the future, and maybe we'll see Nathan Drake return in an open world game. Who knows?
Sure looks like it.